So you want a cheap mining rig. I heard you guys like podcast mics. This is Nick with Blockchain Basement. I'm going to show you how to make a cheap mining rig, okay? But first, we got to talk about some stuff. So you want to get into the wild world of crypto mining, and you're done cooking your desktop, and you want to try something new and different. You want to increase your potential for earnings. Well, congratulations. You've come to the right video. But what we're going to get into right now is the fundamentals of setting up a multi-GPU mining rig on the cheap. So what I'm going to show you is just a basic overview of a setup of a 2 or more mining rig for the absolute rock bottom price of, I'm going to get to that in a second. But what you're going to need to know first and foremost is the area that you're going to be putting this rig in is crucial to get it right. You cannot put it in your closet. You cannot put it near your dogs or your animals or whatever. You can't put it next to your refrigerator. It needs to be in a well-ventilated space. It needs to be open, and it needs to be somewhat climate controlled, okay? Don't put it where it's going to get super mega hot all the time. Doesn't have to be near an air conditioner or a vent, although that would help. Doesn't have to be there. It just has to be able to move around generally room temperature air. That's the most important thing. If you do that, you set yourself up for success. The second, the most important thing is, well, hang on. I'm going to show you what's the most important thing. Forgot to turn my light on. Okay, the second most important thing is this. I'm going to show you. It's a power strip, okay? And this thing is about 15 amps. That's how much electrical input it can take, 15 amps. All these numbers are going to make sense to you in time. But something like this is your general garbage Amazon Basics power strip. It'll do the job. But what you should not do is plug it in to an outlet that is being shared with other appliances, Xboxes, refrigerators, whatever, Wayfoods, whatever, plug-in Wayfoods, whatever you got. No. You need to go to your circuit breaker. You need to find a circuit and an outlet and a plug that this will live on by itself. That's important because this GPU mining rig, which is going to print for you money day in and day out and serve you faithfully for years to come, will draw a lot of power. And if you put more than one thing on that circuit, I'm talking about at the breaker box, it will trip. Next up. Next thing you need is an Ethernet cable. Hang on. You need one of these. You know what this is, right? This is your standard Cat 5 Ethernet cable. Don't be setting up your rig on Wi-Fi. I don't want to see that, okay? So you need to be plugged in to your router. You probably won't need this much cord, but you need to be plugged into your router via Ethernet. You're going to be plugging a computer into your router with Ethernet. Don't be doing Wi-Fi. That's for schmucks. All right. I'm going to get an example rig. Hang on a second. Ta-da. Oh, wait. Ta-da. There it is. Isn't it beautiful? Well, no, because it's not yours. And it's only halfway built. But you know what? All of my miners are working for me. They're doing important things. So don't worry, I'm going to zoom in on it. You'll just hang on a second, okay? So this is generally what your naked rig will look like. First off, this is a specialty frame. You can get these for about 40 bucks on Amazon, but for your first time out, just go to Home Depot and get some $20 wire shelving. Okay, this is about 50 bucks. It's fine. It does the trick, but so does the wire shelving at Home Depot. And let's face it, if you're looking to build a cheapo mining rig, you're probably broke. So you need to be watching your expenses and putting all your money into where it's going to matter. The motherboard here. The motherboard is the brain of your system, but motherboards built for mining are special because they have a lot more static hardening, environmental hardening, and power, just overall more robust power delivery, in addition to the PCI ports. Okay, these PCI ports are where all of your GPUs are going to be plugging in, okay? The one that I recommend for this video is the BioStar TB360 version 2. You can get them used on eBay for about $100. You don't need to buy them new. I don't even think they make them new anymore. But if they're being sold on eBay, they're fine. I've bought half a dozen mining motherboards on eBay. Only one of them is broken on me. Generally, these things are pretty well kept. So buy that. That guy has a lot of power management. It has a lot of PCI ports. I think it has like 12 or 14. Way more than you're going to be using off the rip. But it's a great starting point, and for only $100, it's fine. Don't go out and buy some gaming motherboard that's dumb. Those are made for violent ramp up and down of power usage as the game progresses, right? As you're gaming, that's not what you're going to be using this for. This is going to be max out, balls to the wall, constant power usage, and you need a mining motherboard. If you go out and you buy some Gigabyte or AS Rock, whatever the heck, for gaming, you're going to have a sad time because it's only going to last about 6 months. There's two schools of thought here when it comes to your rig. You can either have a super low power CPU, which goes about right here, super low power CPU, or have a high powered CPU and dual mine. So you can mine with your CPU, a different coin than their GPU. I am putting forth to you that you should be investing in a CPU mining ability because CPU mining is now profitable. It was not profitable for the longest time. Now it is again. So what you're trying to do here is balance power to profitability. So you could go to the absolute maximum and get the Core i9 for the BioStar motherboard. And you could go to the bare bottom and not do any CPU mining and just get a Celeron that's like $50, right? And does nothing. Just keeps the thing running. I think you should go for more profitable CPU mining right now. I see the most profitable per dollar CPU to put on here is a Core i7 from Intel, specifically the 9700K. They're about $150 on eBay. You're going to be hearing that a lot on eBay because that's where you want to be spending the majority of your money. Moving on, what you want to get here, it's not on here. This is just a regular fan, but they have water cooling, all-in-one water cooling systems for your CPU. They're like $60. Pop it on there. It's got 2 tubes. It's got a big old radiator. You're good to go. You never have to worry about your CPU overheating. Just go ahead and get that. All the other fans, yeah, you can do whatever you want, but just get the all-in-one. It's fine. It's way lower profile, much easier to deal with. You don't want some like giant honking thing getting in the way of your GPUs right here, okay? You do want to buy new on Newegg RAM. You don't need much. This is like 16 gig of RAM. No, this is 8. Way too much, okay? You only need like 4 gig of RAM. You need the bare minimum just to keep this thing alive. That's all you need, okay? So get 4 gig of RAM. It's about $15 on Newegg. Also, you can kind of see here. I'll zoom in here. This is this. This has a little fancy little drive holder. This is a solid state drive. You want a solid state drive, get the cheapest one you can find on Newegg. I think I found like a 60 gigabyte solid state drive for about $20. Okay, get those two things new on Newegg or wherever you buy your stuff. Okay, I don't have any affiliate links, whatever. This is for you guys to make money. Buy those two things. You don't need, you're barely just putting Windows on those drives. You're not going to be installing any type of fancy software. There's going to be none of that kind of overhead that you're used to with gaming. You'll barely need 10 gigabytes, okay? What else? Oh, yeah. This thing, I'll zoom in on this. You want one of these. This is just a nice to have. Otherwise, you have to like turn your GPU mining rig on with a screwdriver. It's very odd. It's kind of weird. Kind of feels wrong. This is a switch. You can just buy these little power switches, and they're pretty nifty, and you can click them on and off, and they attach to your motherboard here. But you're going to want that so you can turn it on and off without having to like stick a screwdriver into your motherboard, which you're going to be turning this thing on and off quite a lot as you're getting started. So just get one of these little switches. They're like $5. You can get them on Micro Center or Radio Shack or wherever there's like a local electronics store. Very cheap, but worth it. Next up, the power supply. This is unfortunately one of your biggest ticket items, and I don't recommend buying them used. I recommend buying them new out of the box because you want to make sure it is a 80 gold plus rated power supply or higher. The 80 is the efficiency, okay? And you need it to be at least 1,000 watts because as you're going to grow, which you're going to put a GPU or two on here, and then you're going to get addicted and you're going to try and fill this thing up. So you're going to want this to be 1,000 watts minimum, and it needs to be modular. Let me turn this around. You don't want a big snake coming out of here. You just want individual slots and plugs because you want that expandability and you want to be able to add more cables as you need as you upgrade your rig, okay? This will run you anywhere from $200 to $300. This is one thing that I would not cheap out on. Get the highest end you can afford. When they have, some of them have this like eco thing on. No, turn that off. There's nothing eco about GPU mining, okay? So turn the eco mode off. Make sure it's 1,000 watts, gold rated, modular. That's what you want, okay? That's going to set you up for success. Okay, when do we get to the GPUs? We're almost there, I promise. Next thing you're going to want is GPU risers. What you have to do is you have to bridge the gap from this little thingy here. You're going to be attaching a GPU like up here or on the shelf. You're going to be zip tying it up or something like that. Well, normally you plug them down here on the motherboard. Well, there's a thing called a GPU riser, which is essentially a tiny little version of this that sticks up on your GPU and then has a USB cable that goes woo boop down to the PCIe slot down here. Get them on Amazon. You can buy expensive ones out there that are boutique. Guys, this is the cheapo rig, okay? You're broke, you're poor, you're trying to change your life, okay? This is what I started out with. Cheapo rig. Go on Amazon, just type in GPU riser. And I think they're $30. You're going to have to buy them in 6-packs. The one thing you do want to notice, though, is the amount of power inputs. Okay, some of them will just have a single input on the back. Others will have multiple inputs on the side and the back. You want to find the cheapest ones with the plugs on the side because that gives you more flexibility in how you set your rig up. And it can sometimes limit you in the power draw of the system depending on how many power inputs a card will take. So you want the ones with as many power inputs on them as you can find. The GPU is why you're here, okay? It's going to mine you the coin. Well, so is your CPU, but the GPU is why you're here, okay? You want the fans, you want the power, you want the pipes, you want the LEDs, okay? You're a whore for the gear. Just say it. Say it out loud. The GPU that I am recommending right now is none other than the NVIDIA CMP30HX. This is actually a unique graphics card. You may have never heard of it. It is a specifically made card for mining crypto. This one is dirt cheap and it's barely breaking even right now, but all of that will change as profitability returns to the marketplace. So NVIDIA CMP30HX, if you don't have a graphics card, okay? If you're just starting raw. Okay, go ahead and buy 2. Don't buy 1 because if you had 1, you just put it in a computer. Buy 2. Put them here over top of your motherboard and then get ready to install your operating system. This guy will draw about 100 watts. He's not going to be maxing out your PSU anytime soon, but he will be running at 100 watts constantly all day long, which is why you need to what? Have it on a dedicated circuit, okay? You want to be running at about 80% of the maximum allowed at the wall to avoid a fire hazard. For a 15 amp circuit with 110 voltage, that's around 1500 watts. So that's the maximum. 80% of that is around 1300 watts. So this puppy should be running 1000. So you're off, you've gotten some nice padding there, but look, I don't want you to get into some weird position where you're burning your house down because some guy on the internet told you to buy wire shelving from Home Depot for your GPU miner, okay? No, I want you to be safe and I want you to be profitable because this rig may cost you $500 or so, but it's way cheaper than buying a house or losing your security deposit because you burnt down all the drywall in your apartment. So we're not going to do that, right? We're not going to do that. Basically the last step, which a whole bunch of other videos are about, which I'll put links to in the description, but is the setup. So this is where you kind of choose your path. Are you going to be a Windows miner or are you going to be a Linux miner? Well, both have their advantages and disadvantages. Windows, a lot easier. If you're jumping right in, you're already familiar with it. You can get in there. You can start downloading the miners. There are some Windows applications, some software that you can use that just makes it easier and does a lot of the stuff for you. A lot of the overclocking stuff has some nice graphical interfaces that you can use to overclock your card and find that sweet spot for making profit. Windows is fine. It does use about 15% more power on average, and it's less reliable. So It'll do a Windows thing. It'll kick out your overclocks. It'll reboot. It'll blah, blah, blah. It'll have problems, but it's fine to get started. It's how I started. It's a totally legitimate way to get started mining. The other option is going to Linux, which don't be afraid. I said Linux. Don't be afraid. There are specific mining softwares that run on a tiny, teeny, tiny, like 50 megabyte version of Linux. One of them is called Rave OS. Another one is called Hive OS. It is your GPU management software. It's probably overkill for running one rig, but it's a great way to get involved. You get way more efficiency, way more reliability. You can really fine-tune your overclocks to an absolute pinpoint. There is a little bit of a hurdle. And again, I'll put links into how to set up a Hive OS drive. All this is going to go on your hard drive. It's not going to max it out in any way whatsoever. Also, quick note, you don't want to use a USB. You want to use a solid state drive. You don't want to use a USB drive. You can boot to a USB drive. USB drives are just not reliable, and they will crap out after about 8 months. Okay? So, all in all, this cheapo rig will cost you somewhere around $700 to $750 once you factor in shipping costs. So, for $700, you can get set up. The ROI depends on the coin that you choose, but most likely you're going to be mining in profit if you get started now, which now is February of 2024. If you get started within the next couple of weeks, you should have about 1.5 to 2 years of mining profitability. This thing should pay for itself, depending on the coin that you mine, anywhere from 6 to 9 months, and then you're looking at just raw profit from there. Anyways, guys, this is your cheapo mining rig. It's not going to look like this. It's going to look like something cool that you've made by yourself, and it's mining, and it's generating a lot of heat, and people are going to ask you about it. They're going to say weird things about it when you have parties, but that's totally fine. You get to explain crypto to them. Go ahead, comment below on the next type of rig you want me to cover. I will bring in some GPUs. I'll bring in some risers, show you how they work. I'm also going to show you a good ROI calculator. I'll post that in the comment in the description. So anyways, thanks for watching the video. Get out there, get mining. Mining crypto is the best way to understand crypto, hands down. I hope all of you are very profitable in your journey. Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the subs, and I'll see you later.